3,000 years ago, the Galactic Council made a decision that would change the fate of an entire species. They had discovered a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star in a quiet corner of the galaxy. The beings living there called themselves humans, and they terrified the Council. The Kellery were the first to find them. Their scout ships had been mapping new star systems when they stumbled upon Earth. What they saw made their blood run cold. The humans were fighting a massive war. Millions of soldiers moved across continents. Cities burned. And then, in the final days of the conflict, the humans did something that no species had ever done so early in their development. They split the atom and used it as a weapon. Ambassador Vorath of the Kellery Dominion stood before the Council and delivered his report. His voice was steady, but his fear was clear to everyone in the chamber. "These creatures are barely out of their caves," he said. "They have not even left their own planet. Yet they have already created weapons capable of destroying entire cities in seconds. If we allow them to develop further, they will become a threat to every civilized species in the galaxy." The Council listened in silence. Representatives from 17 different species filled the great chamber, their forms ranging from tall and graceful to short and many-limbed. They came from worlds scattered across thousands of light years, united by a common desire for peace and order. And now they faced a difficult choice. "What do you suggest?" asked High Counselor Mira of the Valdorian Assembly. She was ancient, even by her species standards, and her wisdom was respected by all. "Quarantine," Vorath replied. "We surround their solar system with warning beacons and automated defense platforms. Any ship trying to leave will be destroyed. We wait for them to kill themselves, as violent species always do. And if they do not kill themselves, they will. It is inevitable. Their nature demands it." The vote was unanimous. The quarantine was established within a solar cycle. Hundreds of satellites formed a barrier around the human solar system, broadcasting warnings in every known language. Behind them, weapons platforms stood ready to destroy any vessel that tried to escape. The galaxy moved on. Centuries passed. The humans were forgotten now, 3,000 years later. High Counselor Mirathon stood in the same chamber where her ancestor had once presided. The Valdorian had 4 arms and skin that changed color with her emotions. Right now, it was shifting through shades of gray and purple, colors that indicated deep concern. "Show me again," she said to her aide. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a region of space that had been marked as forbidden for millennia. The quarantine zone around the human solar system was gone. Not damaged, not malfunctioning, gone. Every satellite, every weapons platform, every warning beacon had been dismantled with surgical precision, and in their place was a fleet. The ships were unlike anything in the Council's records. They were angular and aggressive, built for both speed and power. Their hulls were made of materials that the sensors could not identify, and there were hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formation, waiting. "How is this possible?" Mirathan asked. "Those defense platforms were designed by the Kellery. They were supposed to be indestructible. Apparently the humans disagreed," her aide replied. The emergency session was called within the hour. Representatives from all 17 species gathered in the Great Chamber, some physically present, and others appearing as holographic projections from distant worlds. The noise was deafening as everyone tried to speak at once. Mirathon raised all 4 arms and waited for silence. It took longer than usual. "We have received a transmission from the human fleet," she announced. "They are requesting formal diplomatic contact with the Galactic Council." "Requesting?" Ambassador Vorath, the younger, rose from his seat. He was the descendant of the original Kellery diplomat who had discovered Earth, and he had inherited his ancestors' fear of humanity. "They have destroyed Council property and violated the quarantine. They should be requesting our forgiveness." "They have done nothing aggressive toward any living being," Marathon replied. "They dismantled our equipment, yes, but they have harmed no one. And the quarantine technically expired 2 centuries ago when the Council failed to renew it." This caused another uproar. Species accused each other of negligence. Old rivalries flared up. Through it all, Mirathon watched the display showing the human fleet. wondering what kind of beings had emerged from 3,000 years of isolation. Far away, aboard the lead ship of the human fleet, Admiral Catherine Cole was wondering the same thing about the aliens. She was 63 years old, with gray streaks in her brown hair and eyes that had seen too much. Behind her, the bridge crew of the UEC Horizon worked with quiet efficiency. "Admiral," said Commander Daniel Price, her second in command, "we are receiving a response to our hail. Put it through."
Oh.
The view screen changed to show an alien face. It was roughly humanoid, but clearly not human. Forearms, color-changing skin, and large compound eyes that reflected the light in strange ways. "I am High Counselor Marathan of the Valdorian Assembly," the alien said through a translation device. "You are in violation of council law. Your species was placed under quarantine by unanimous decree." Catherine smiled. It was not a warm smile.
Yes.
"We found your quarantine. We found the warning beacons telling us to stay in our cage. We found the weapons platforms designed to kill us if we tried to leave. We took them apart. That technology was created by the most advanced species in the galaxy. It should have been impossible for you to defeat it. Counselor, your information is 3,000 years out of date. A lot can change in 3,000 years." There was a long silence. Catherine could see other figures moving in the background of the transmission. Various alien shapes conferring an obvious panic. She felt a grim satisfaction at their fear. For 3 millennia, humanity had lived under the threat of annihilation. They had been judged and condemned by beings they had never met. Now, the judges were learning that their prisoners had not been idle. "What do you want?" Marathon finally asked. "We want what any species wants. Recognition, respect, a place in the larger community of intelligent life. We have been watching you for a very long time, Counselor. We know your languages, your cultures, your politics. We have been patient. But our patience has limits. You have been watching us." "How?" Catherine gestured to one of her officers, who sent a data packet to the alien ship. "We developed faster-than-light communication about 200 years after you locked us away. We have been listening to your transmissions ever since. We know about your council, your alliances, your wars. We know which species can be trusted and which cannot." Marathan's skin cycled through a dozen colors that Catherine could not interpret. Fear, perhaps. Or disbelief. Or both. "The council will need time to discuss this situation," the alien finally said. "Take all the time you need," Catherine replied. "We have waited 3,000 years. We can wait a little longer." She cut the transmission and turned to face her crew. Every eye on the bridge was fixed on her, waiting. "Now we see what they are made of," she said quietly. "And they see what we are made of. Let us hope everyone makes the right choices." Through the view screen, the alien station hung in the void, surrounded by stars that humanity was finally free to explore. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The cage was broken. The universe would never be the same. The Council Station was the largest structure Catherine Cole had ever seen. It orbited a dying red star at the center of known space. A massive ring of metal and glass that served as neutral ground for 17 alien species. Ships of every shape and size docked at its ports, carrying diplomats, merchants, and travelers from across the galaxy. Catherine's shuttle approached slowly, giving the alien security forces plenty of time to scan every inch of the vessel. She understood their caution. If she had been in their position, she would have done the same thing. Commander Daniel Price sat beside her, reviewing data on a tablet. He was a younger man, only 42, with sharp features and a mind that never stopped working. "The Council has been in emergency session for 6 hours, he reported. "Our sources say they cannot agree on anything." "What factions have formed?" "3 main groups. The Kellery and their allies want to destroy us before we become a bigger threat. The Valdorians are pushing for diplomatic engagement. And the smaller species are waiting to see which side wins before committing." Catherine nodded. This was expected. The Council had not faced a real challenge in centuries. They had grown comfortable, set in their ways. Humanity's emergence had shattered that comfort. And now they were scrambling to respond. The shuttle docked at a private port, away from the main traffic. A delegation of Valdorian guards escorted Catherine and her team through winding corridors to a meeting chamber. The walls were made of some translucent material that glowed with soft light. The air smelled strange but not unpleasant. High Counselor Marathan was waiting for them. "Admiral Cole," the alien said through her translation device. "Thank you for agreeing to this preliminary meeting." "Thank you for the invitation, Counselor. I know this situation is difficult for everyone." They sat across from each other at a curved table. Catherine's team took positions behind her, while the Valdorian guards did same for their counselor. For a long moment, no one spoke. "I have read your species history," Marathan finally said. "The files we compiled before the quarantine. They paint a troubling picture." "I am sure they do. 3,000 years ago, we were in the middle of the worst war our planet had ever seen. 60 million people died in 6 years. It was not our finest moment. And yet you developed atomic weapons during that conflict. Weapons of mass destruction." "Yes, and we used them. Twice. Hundreds of thousands of people died in seconds." Catherine met the alien's compound eyes without flinching. "We are not proud of that history, Counselor, but we do not hide from it either." "Then you admit that your species is violent by nature?" "I admit that we are capable of great violence. All intelligent species are. The difference is what we do with that capacity." Catherine leaned forward. "In the 3,000 years since your people abandoned us, we have learned to control our worst impulses. We have built a civilization that spans dozens of worlds. We have eliminated poverty, extended our lifespans, and created technologies that your council cannot match." "Created weapons that our council cannot match," Marathan corrected. "Yes, because we knew you were out there. We knew that someday we would have to face the beings who had locked us in a cage and thrown away the key. We prepared for that day." The counselor's skin shifted to a deep blue color. Catherine's cultural briefing suggested this indicated thoughtfulness, consideration. "The Kalari believe you will try to conquer the galaxy," Marathan said. "The Kalari are afraid. Fear makes people see threats everywhere." Catherine shook her head. "We have no interest in conquest, Counselor. What would be the point? The galaxy is vast enough for everyone. We want trade, cooperation, the chance to learn from other species and share what we have learned, and if the Council refuses, then we will pursue those goals without the Council's blessing. We will make our own alliances, establish our own trade routes, explore our own territory. We are not asking for permission to exist. That permission was never yours to grant." The words hung in the air between them. Catherine watched the alien's skin cycle through several colors, trying to read emotions she did not fully understand. "You speak very directly," Marathan observed. "I see no point in games. We both know what the stakes are. Either we find a way to coexist peacefully, or we end up at war. I would prefer peace, but I am prepared for war if necessary." "As are we. Are you?" Catherine allowed a small smile to cross her face. "Counselor, in the time it took your security teams to scan our shuttle, we identified 17 critical weaknesses in this station's defensive systems. We know the patrol patterns of your guard ships, the access codes for your communication networks, and the personal schedules of every major diplomat on board." Marathan's skin went pale. "That is impossible. We have had 3,000 years to develop our intelligence capabilities. We know more about your council than most of your own members do." Catherine held up a hand to forestall the alien's response. "I am not telling you this to threaten you. I am telling you because I want you to understand what you are dealing with. We are not the primitive savages your ancestors encountered. We have evolved. Into what? Into a species that would rather talk than fight. But make no mistake, Counselor. If we are forced to fight, we will win." The meeting continued for several more hours. Catherine answered questions about human history, culture, technology, and intentions. She was honest about their capabilities and their limitations. She did not try to minimize the violence of their past or exaggerate their achievements by the end. Marathan seemed genuinely curious rather than simply afraid. "You are not what I expected," the counselor admitted. "Neither are you," Catherine replied. I expected arrogance and condescension. Instead, I find someone who actually wants to understand. Understanding is the beginning of wisdom. My people learned that lesson long ago, and perhaps there is hope for us both. As Catherine returned to her shuttle, Daniel fell into step beside her. That went better than I expected, he said quietly. The counselor is reasonable, but she is only one voice among many. The real test will come in the full council session. What do you think will happen? Catherine looked out a viewport at the alien ships surrounding the station. So many different designs, so many different species, all of them watching humanity's first steps into a wider universe. I think we are about to find out what kind of galaxy we live in, she said. Whether it is one that welcomes newcomers or one that destroys them. And if it is the second kind, Catherine's expression hardened. Then we will change it. One way or another, humanity did not come this far just to be pushed back into a cage. The quarantine is over. The future begins now. The shuttle departed from the station, carrying them back to the waiting fleet. Behind them, the council continued to debate. Ahead of them, the stars waited to be explored. And somewhere in between, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The weeks that followed first contact were filled with tension. Every day brought new debates in the council chambers, new accusations, new demands. The Calori pushed for military action while the Valdorians called for patience. The smaller species watched and waited. Unwilling to commit to either side, Catherine Cole remained on the council station as Earth's representative. She had a small team with her, Commander Daniel Price for security matters, Dr. Samuel Wright for cultural analysis, and Lieutenant Maria Santos for communications. Together, they navigated the complex web of alien politics, looking for allies wherever they could find them. The Tarani want to meet with you, Samuel reported one morning. He was a thin man with glasses and a nervous habit of cleaning them when he was thinking. They have sent 3 separate requests through unofficial channels. The Tarani. Remind me about them, merchant species. They control most of the commercial shipping in the outer sectors. They are not particularly loyal to anyone except themselves. If there is profit to be made, they will find it. As Catherine considered this. What do they want from us? Unknown. But they have been very careful to keep these communications hidden from the Kalari. That alone tells us something. The meeting took place in a private room far from the main council halls. The Tarani representative was a being called Merchant Prime Vex, whose appearance reminded Catherine of a large spider wrapped in expensive cloth. Multiple eyes glittered as the alien studied her. Admiral Colvex said in a clicking voice, I have been wanting to speak with you. Your species presents interesting opportunities. What kind of opportunities? Trade, of course. My analysts have been studying the data your ships have transmitted. Some of your materials science exceeds council standards by a significant margin. Your medical technology is equally impressive. These things have value. Catherine nodded slowly. And you would like to be the ones who sell them? The Tarani Trading Consortium would be happy to serve as intermediaries. We have connections throughout the galaxy. We know how to move goods efficiently and discreetly. In exchange for what? A modest percentage of all transactions. Navigation data for the regions outside your former quarantine zone. Introductions to potential partners. Vex's legs moved in what might have been a shrug. Standard arrangements. They negotiated for 2 hours, eventually settling on terms that both sides found acceptable. When Vex departed, Catherine turned to Samuel. Can we trust them? Absolutely not, the historian replied. The Tarani are famous for switching sides whenever it benefits them. But they are also famous for honoring their contracts. As long as we are profitable partners, they will be reliable. Then we use them for what they are, a door into the wider galaxy. Meanwhile, the council debates continued. Ambassador Voroth the Younger had proposed a resolution declaring humanity a threat to galactic peace. If passed, it would authorize military action against the human fleet. They have dismantled our defenses, Voroth argued, his voice rising with passion. They have admitted to spying on us for centuries. They have developed weapons capable of destroying entire planets. How can we allow such dangerous beings to move freely among us? Counselor Mirthon responded from her position across the chamber. The humans have not attacked anyone. They have requested diplomatic contact through proper channels. They have been remarkably patient given how long they were imprisoned. Patience is just another word for waiting. Waiting for the right moment to strike, or waiting for the chance to prove themselves worthy of trust. The debate went back and forth for hours. Catherine watched from the observation gallery, taking notes on which species supported which position. The patterns were revealing. The older, more powerful species tended to side with the Kalari. The younger ones, those who had themselves faced discrimination when they first joined the council, were more sympathetic to humanity. The vote will be close, Daniel said quietly. If we can swing 3 or 4 of the undecided species, we might win. How do we do that? Show them that we are not a threat. Give them something they want. Catherine thought about this. What did these aliens want? Security? Certainly. Prosperity. The chance to advance their own interests without being crushed by the larger powers. We need to offer them partnership, she said slowly. Not just trade, but real cooperation. Technology sharing, Muchu. Al defense agreements. The chance to build something new together. Oh, that goes against standard diplomatic protocol. We are supposed to negotiate from strength, not give things away. Standard protocol assumes we are dealing with reasonable beings. Half this council is too afraid to think straight. Catherine shook her head. Fear is our enemy right now. We need to give them a reason to stop being afraid. She requested a special session to address the full council. It was granted after 2 days of procedural arguments, standing at the central podium. Surrounded by representatives of 17 alien species, Catherine spoke simply and directly. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors looked at humanity and saw monsters. They saw our wars, our weapons, our capacity for destruction, and they were right to be concerned. We were dangerous. We still are. The chamber was silent, everyone waiting to see where she was going with this. But danger is not destiny. We have spent the last 3 millennia proving that. We turned our weapons into tools. We turned our aggression into ambition. We built colonies on barren rocks and made them bloom with life. We conquered diseases that once killed millions. We extended our lifespans, expanded our minds, reached for the stars. She paused, looking around the room. You locked us away because you feared what we might become. Let me tell you what we became. We became survivors. We became innovators. We became a species that refuses to give up, no matter how impossible the odds. Catherine activated a holographic display showing human achievements over the past 3,000 years. Cities rising from deserts. Ships crossing the void between planets. Scientists working in laboratories. Artists creating works of stunning beauty. Families living in peace. This is who we are now. Not the savages you remember, but their descendants. We carry our history with us, the good and the bad. We do not pretend that our ancestors were saints, but we are not condemned to repeat their mistakes. She let the images fade, ask only for the chance to prove ourselves. To trade with you, to learn from you, to share what we have learned. If we fail, if we prove unworthy of your trust, then do what you must. But at least give us the chance. The vote on Voreth's resolution came 3 days later. It failed by 4 votes. Catherine received the news in her quarters aboard the Horizon. She allowed herself one moment of relief before turning her thoughts to the next challenge. This is just the beginning, she told her team. We have avoided war for now, but the hardliners will not give up. We need to build something stronger than fear. What did you have in mind? Daniel asked. A coalition. Not against the council, but within it. Species who want change, who are tired of the old power structures, who see humanity as an opportunity rather than a threat. That will take time. Then we had better start now. Outside the viewport, the stars waited. 3,000 years of imprisonment had ended. But the real work of freedom was only beginning. The peace held for 3 months. 3 months of negotiations, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and careful diplomacy. 3 months of progress that seemed to prove humanity's good intentions. And then the Kellerai decided to test them. Admiral Gregory Hayes commanded the sole defense fleet from his flagship, the UEC Defender. He was 51 years old, a career military officer who had spent his entire life preparing for a conflict he hoped would never come. When his sensors detected an unauthorized vessel entering human-controlled space, he felt his stomach drop. Identification. He asked his tactical officer. Kalari warship, Admiral. Heavy cruiser class. They are heading directly for Mars. Gregory studied the display. Mars was humanity's second most populated world, home to over 200 million people. If the Kalari intended to attack it, the results would be catastrophic. Open a channel, the communication officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Kalari vessel. This is Admiral Gregory Hayes of the United Earth Coalition. You have entered human-controlled space without authorization. State your intentions immediately. Response came back with obvious contempt. Human vessel. This space belongs to the Galactic Council. Your kind has no authority here. We are conducting a lawful survey mission. The Council recognized our territorial claims 2 months ago. You are in violation of established boundaries. We do not recognize those claims. The Council was wrong to grant them. Gregory exchanged glances with his executive officer, Commander Patricia Lane. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and a reputation for staying calm under pressure. What do you think? He asked quietly. They are testing us, seeing if we will back down, and if we do, then they will push harder next time. And the time after that, until we have nothing left. Gregory nodded. This was what he had feared. The Kalari were not interested in peace. They wanted to prove that humanity was weak, that the Council had made a mistake in accepting them. The only way to stop them was to show strength. All ships move to intercept. Weapons hot, but do not fire unless fired upon. The human squadron accelerated toward the intruder. 6 destroyers against 1 heavy cruiser. On paper, the odds were fairly even. But Gregory had seen the specifications for Kalari ships. They were powerful, well-armed, and crewed by beings who had been fighting wars for 10,000 years. They are launching something, the tactical officer reported. Probe of some kind. It is heading for Mars. Destroy it. The nearest destroyer fired a single shot. The probe vanished in a flash of light. Kalari vessel is powering weapons. Gregory made his decision in a heartbeat. All ships disable their weapon systems. Try not to kill anyone. The engagement was brief and brutal. Human targeting computers, developed in isolation from galactic standards, were horrifyingly accurate. Within 2 minutes, the Kalari cruiser was drifting helplessly. Its weapons destroyed, its engines crippled, its crew alive but unable to fight back. Kalari vessel. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with force. There was a long silence. Then the Kalari commander's voice came through, no longer contemptuous. Now, it carried something that sounded almost like fear. You will pay for this aggression, human. Maybe. But today, you are coming with us. News of the incident reached the Council within hours. Ambassador Varath demanded immediate action. His speech was filled with righteous anger, painting the humans as unprovoked aggressors who had attacked a peaceful research vessel. Catherine. Cole listened from her position at the human delegation's podium. When Vorath finished, she requested permission to respond. The Kalari ship entered our space without permission. It launched surveillance equipment at one of our civilian populations. When asked to leave, it refused and prepared to fire on our vessels. Our forces responded with minimum necessary force. No one was killed. You attacked a council vessel, Vorath snarled. We defended our territory. There is a difference. Counselor Marathan raised one of her forearms. The records from the incident have been reviewed by independent analysts. They confirm the human account. The Kalari vessel did cross into recognized human space. It did launch unauthorized equipment, and it did power weapons before the human ships fired. The analysts are biased, Vorth protested. The analysts are Torani. They have no love for humans. They simply follow the evidence. The chamber erupted into argument. Species accused each other of bad faith. Old rivalries surfaced. Through it all, Catherine watched with growing concern. The situation was spiraling out of control. She caught Marathan's eye and made a subtle gesture. The counselor nodded almost imperceptibly. They met privately that evening in a secure room. "This cannot continue," Catherine said. "Every incident pushes us closer to war." "I agree. But the Council is not capable of rapid change. We have operated the same way for 10,000 years. Then perhaps the Council needs to change." Marathan's skin shifted through several thoughtful colors. "What do you propose?" "A summit. Away from here. Away from the politics and the grandstanding. Real leaders talking about real solutions. Where there is an uninhabited system between our territories. We could meet there secretly, work out an agreement, and present it to the Council as a done deal. That would be unprecedented. So as locking an entire species in a cage for 3,000 years. We are in unprecedented territory, Counselor. We need unprecedented solutions." The Valdorian was silent for a long moment. Catherine could see her wrestling with the implications. If the summit failed, it would destroy both their careers. If it was discovered before an agreement was reached, the hardliners would use it as evidence of conspiracy. The risks were enormous. "The Kellery will try to sabotage it," Marathan finally said. "Then we do not tell them until it is too late, and if we cannot reach an agreement." Catherine met the alien's eyes. "Then, at least we will have tried. I would rather fail at making peace than succeed at making war." Marathan's skin shifted to a warm golden color that Catherine had. Arnid indicated approval. "Very well, Admiral. I will make the arrangements." Catherine returned to the horizon that night, her mind racing with plans and contingencies. The summit was a gamble, but she saw no other option. The Council was paralyzed by fear and old grudges. Someone had to break the deadlock before it was too late. She found Daniel waiting for her in the briefing room. "The Kalari commander is talking," he reported. "He says the mission was authorized by Ambassador Vorath personally. Can we prove it?" "Maybe. The encryption on their communications is good, but not unbreakable. Give us a few days." "Do it." "If we can show that Vorath ordered an illegal incursion, it might be enough to remove him from the Council." "And if it is not enough?" Catherine looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, enemies were plotting and allies were waiting to be convinced. The future of two civilizations depended on what happened in the next few weeks. "Then we make it enough," she said quietly. "Whatever it takes." The summit took place in orbit around a nameless gas giant, far from the shipping lanes and patrol routes of the major powers. 3 ships met in the void: the human flagship Horizon, the Valdorian diplomatic cruiser Endless Peace, and a small Tirani vessel that Merchant Prime Vex had insisted on bringing. Catherine Cole, Counselor Marathan, and Vex gathered in a specially constructed meeting chamber. The room had been designed to accommodate all 3 species with adjustable gravity, temperature, and atmosphere. It was uncomfortable for everyone, which Catherine supposed was fair. "We have perhaps 3 days before our absence is noticed," Marathan said. "What do you propose, Admiral?" Catherine activated a holographic display showing the galaxy divided into colored sectors. "The current political structure is based on fear," she began. "Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of species that do not fit established categories. Humanity was quarantined not because we were uniquely dangerous, but because we were different. We developed along our own path, and that frightened the Council." "This assessment is accurate," Marathan admitted. "We propose a new framework, not replacement of the Council, but expansion of it. Humanity joins as a full member with all rights and responsibilities. In exchange, we share our technological developments freely with all member species." Vex made a clicking sound. "Freely? Without compensation?" "There will be compensation through trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. But the core knowledge itself will be available to everyone. No more hoarding, no more artificial scarcity." "The Kellery will never accept this," Marathan said. "It undermines their entire power structure. The Kellery do not have to accept it. They can join the new framework or find themselves isolated." Catherine leaned forward. We have watched your council for centuries. We know which species are unhappy with the current arrangement, which ones are looking for alternatives. We can offer those alternatives. We would fracture the council. Only if the council refuses to evolve. We would prefer to strengthen it. The negotiations continued for 2 full days. Every point was argued, every detail examined. Catherine found herself gaining respect for Marathon's intelligence and Vex's practical wisdom. These were beings she could work with, beings who understood that the old ways were no longer sustainable. On the 3rd day, they emerged with a document they called the New Compact. It would restructure the Council to give equal representation to all member species regardless of technological advancement. It would establish clear territorial boundaries and protocols for first contact with emerging species. And it would create an independent body to resolve disputes before they escalated to conflict. This will change everything, Marathon said as they prepared to return to their respective fleets. That is the point, Catherine replied. The old system was built on the assumption that some species are inherently superior to others. We are offering a different vision, one based on cooperation instead of domination. Many will resist, many will. But more will see the opportunity. The Council has been stagnant for too long. This is a chance for real progress. The new compact was presented to the full Council 2 weeks later. As expected, the debate was fierce. Ambassador Vorath denounced it as a human plot to destroy galactic civilization. Other Kalari representatives called it an insult to their proud history. But the momentum was shifting. Species that had remained silent for centuries began to speak up. They talked about grievances that had been ignored, opportunities that had been denied, potential that had been wasted under the old system. The vote came after 3 months of debate. 14 species voted in favor. 2 abstained. Only the Kellery voted against. Vorath stood alone as the results were announced, his face twisted with fury. "You have made a terrible mistake," he declared. "The humans will destroy everything we have built." Catherine Cole rose from her seat. "No, Ambassador. We will help you build something better. Whether you choose to be part of that is up to you." The following months saw rapid changes throughout the galaxy. Human technology began spreading to species that had been denied access to advanced tools for millennia. Trade routes expanded. Cultural exchanges flourished. Old enemies found common ground in their shared desire for progress. Not everything was smooth. There were setbacks, misunderstandings, moments when war seemed possible. The Kalari remained hostile, refusing to participate in the new framework. But they were increasingly isolated, their influence fading as other species embraced the changes. 1 year after the new compact was ratified, humanity officially took its seat in the Great Chamber of the Galactic Council. The representative chosen for this honor was not a military officer or a politician, but a former teacher named Maria Santos. She had spent her career building bridges between divided communities, and Catherine believed she was exactly what humanity needed in this moment. Maria looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 18 species. Some were humanoid, others were so alien that she could barely comprehend their forms. All of them were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do with this new opportunity. "My friends," she began, "we have spent 3,000 years apart. Some of that time was spent in fear, some in misunderstanding, some in preparation for a conflict that never had to happen. But today we begin a new chapter." The chamber was silent. "We are young by your standards. We have made terrible mistakes and we carry the weight of that history with us. But we have also learned from those mistakes. We have learned that violence is never the best solution. We have learned that cooperation achieves what conflict cannot. We have learned that the universe is vast enough for all of us." Maria paused, meeting as many eyes as she could. "We do not ask you to trust us. Trust is earned through actions, not words. We ask only for the opportunity to prove ourselves, to show you who we have become, not who we were." She sat down. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, one of the smaller delegates began to applaud. Another joined, then another, until the entire chamber rang with approval from a dozen different species, watching from the observation gallery. Admiral Catherine Cole allowed herself a rare smile. The road ahead would be long and difficult. There would be more challenges, more tests of humanity's commitment to peace. But they had proven something today. They were no longer prisoners. They were partners. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity had changed with it. 3,000 years of isolation had forged them into something new. A species that remembered its violent past but chose a different future. They had emerged from the quarantine zone not as conquerors, but as builders, and the building had only just begun. Outside the station, the stars stretched away in every direction. Billions of points of light representing billions of possibilities. For the first time in human history, all of them were within reach. Not through conquest or domination, but through cooperation and understanding. The quarantine was over. The future was waiting, and humanity was finally ready to meet it.